All right, good evening. I'm going to call the Select Board meeting of Tuesday, November 26th to order. And first item is approval of the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any changes to the agenda? We had a projected change and we pulled it.
Yeah, BMP back
So
to
no
next meeting,
changes?
they'll present that topic.
Okay.
And
All in favor? Yes?
Just one, does it make sense to move Emily up in the capital discussion so she, unless she wants to stay here for the whole thing?
It's pretty fun.
Okay.
We're hoping to keep her for our part of the budget talk also, so.
Oh, okay. All right, never mind. She was just doing a bunch of infrastructure and then it
Yep.
was,
Right.
Yeah.
Crystal and David, and I didn't know if it made sense to move these.
Sure.
Okay. All in favor of approving the draft agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? I see the thumbs. That's good. Next is approval of the consent agenda.
Remove.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Anything anybody would like to talk about or call out in the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as drafted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that was unanimous. Citizen comments. Are you here for something that's not on the agenda?
We were here to make a public comment,
Good.
Yes.
and we won't take up too much time because she wants to go to bed.
Perfect.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm Tamara, this is Alta. I'm just here to voice my support for the Middlebury Skate Park project. I'm a mom to 2 young kids, and we're hopeful about the prospect of a permanent skate park in Middlebury.
Can you state your names for the record, please?
Oh, our names?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Your-
Tamara Sullivan, and
Okay,
this is my
thank you.
daughter Alta. Yeah, even though my kids are 2 and 5, we've already been to the Bristol skate park many times to ride scooters and practice riding bikes. I've been observing the process, and I realize this is a critical time for the project. I understand the town is supportive, and I'd like to express my appreciation for everyone's dedication to this community building project. I think that common accessible gathering spaces that support a variety of users are very important for building community, and I look forward to having a permanent skate park as a vibrant addition to the town, particularly as my kids grow up. As a parent, I see this as a really exciting option. I also see it as a capital improvement that creates more parks and recreation options and requires minimal maintenance, keeps kids outside, and provides space for creative exploratory movement. I also don't see it as mutually exclusive to team sports, but as providing an additional option. The recreation space around Mary Hogan could be really pretty great by providing multiple options for parents. That would allow us to watch a soccer game, have one kid be playing tennis or swimming or whatever while the other kid's at the skate park. It just makes it a little bit easier for supervision after school. I didn't have access to a skate park growing up, and I think there's a lot of potential for Middlebury to create a really dynamic, all ages accessible park space. And the access is so easy from all the schools, and there's already so many different user groups in the area. I think it's nice for adults and kids alike, especially the popularity of pickleball, just to kind of mix all the user groups together. That's sort of all I want to say, and thanks for your time.
Thanks for coming
Okay,
in.
thanks.
Yeah.
Mark.
Thank you.
We do have one hand up online, so.
Are you going to
Alicia?
promote Alicia? Are you there?
If you can hear us?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm here. Hi there. Oh, I don't. Okay, I guess it's not gonna let me show my face tonight, but that's me. My name is Alicia Butler. I'm also here to voice my support for the Middlebury Skate Park. I'm a Middlebury resident and a mom of 4 young kids. I've got a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and then a baby who's 18 months. We're heavily embedded in the recreational department here in Middlebury already. Our kids play sports year-round. We also use the Middlebury Snow Bowl every weekend in the winter months. But we see the skate park as such a great addition for those kids who may not do sports It gives them another outlet to be outside, to be off screens, which in today's world is so huge for a parent. Finding anything your child can do that doesn't involve a screen is huge. Having the additional outdoor space and recreation option for kids of all ages would be such a huge asset. Over the past few months, we've seen the temporary skate park get so much use from people of all ages. My little children enjoy playing alongside high school students, college students come over, and many adult community members are there often, and they're always willing to lend a hand, show a new skill. It's just been a really great community bonding experience for my kids and for me as an adult. We're really excited about the town's ongoing support in both the budget and then via the grants like the land and water conservation that's on the agenda for tonight. We're really hopeful that Middlebury will soon join the surrounding communities and have a large outdoor skate area for those to use with a variety of different wheels and skill sets and ages and demographics. Skateboarding is such an inexpensive sport, and I think it really gives access to people of all demographics that may not be able to utilize a team sport because of expenses. I just think it's a really great option to have in our community, and we're grateful that you guys are considering it.
Okay, thank you, Alicia. So, everybody else is here for something on the agenda. Emily, we'll start with you, I guess. Wastewater treatment
She's the whole
facility.
agenda.
Yeah.
No, again, sorry. Wastewater treatment facility upgrade, we had Wright Pierce present, their alternatives at the last infrastructure committee meeting. And I think we found a good solution to our current, situation. We have age-related conditions that need to be, replaced and upgraded, and then there's also the solids handling component that we did a previous presentation on with Wright Pierce. So their recommendation at this point is to make the age-related upgrades that we need, and then for the solids handling, replace our dewatering system, current dewatering system, and then introduce a dryer, which would keep us a little bit more flexible moving into the future. And if PFAS becomes a consideration for whether or not we're allowed to do land application in the future, we could always introduce paralysis at a later date, and it would be a phased introduction that way, so we're not doing the entire construction at once. I think the harder part of the conversation is the dollar value. One of the slides, is the packet in the,
This one?
yeah, so one of the very last slides that they included sort of shows that we are not the only town going through this same situation. Shelburne just barely held their bond vote in November. Burlington is looking to in March at town meeting. Virgins recently had one, South Burlington recently had one. So it's sort of, we're all in a very similar situation. And I think we can be creative moving forward with how we fund it. And I think the main goal will be just to communicate to the public that we will not be bonding for the entire amount, but as is always the case, we have to ask for the full amount in the bond, and then we can start getting some grant funding and whittle away at that dollar.
So I would just want to thank Emily for, especially, this was preceded by a review with the Energy Committee. It's been concerned about the greenhouse gas implications, and that was very useful in laying their concerns and by the way, at that meeting, we clarified the relationship of how the Energy Committee should function, feeding things to the Infrastructure Committee through Emily, and clarifying this energy efficiency fund, which they felt some control over and priority review over, and really it's part of the capital improvements fund that Emily manages, and that straightened things out quite a bit. So I want to thank you for that, and relate that the Energy Committee supports this. The part about this that they remain concerned about is how would the blower dryer be fueled, and the report shows a slight favor for electricity over natural gas, and I don't have to explain to you why the Energy Committee feels that way. But that's pretty much where it summarizes where they stand on it. And thank you.
Are we still hoping to get this in a bond vote for town meeting in March?
Ideally, because then we can start looking at the grant funding to go along with it. I think the sooner obviously the public needs to be educated on the project, and so my initial goal is to have some tours open to the public during December, January, which is cold, but hopefully we can get some people out there, just to educate them on the process. And then start doing more informational posters and things of that nature, just to educate them. I think by getting it on town meeting, we still have a couple of years of design, so it really gives us a few years to go after funding to help secure more funding before we start construction.
And how far in advance is it we have to say we're gonna have the bond vote?
To warn it?
When do we have to warn it?
With the warning at the end of January.
By the end of January?
Yeah, I think January 13th. It's right around there.
Is that on this
I think
budget schedule?
I believe so.
Let me check.
Who briefed this to the Energy Committee?
I met with the Energy Committee the day before the engineers came to meet with infrastructure.
Yeah.
So there were a few members of the Energy Committee at the Infrastructure Committee, but we also talked about it. I talked about it with them in advance.
I just feel that I can look through these slides, doesn't mean much to me. I'm not a
For the,
wastewater treatment guy.
yeah, you should come on the
I-
tour.
What's that?
You should come on the tour.
Well, before I'm gonna vote on it, I really wanna have a presentation from the engineer. I don't think,
For the greenhouse gas component of it, or for the overall design of it?
I think it'd
for a
be,
$49 million,
yeah.
So I think it should be the engineers coming in,
that's what
not.
I'm saying.
Okay, I thought you were saying the Energy
Oh,
Committee coming in.
No, I was wondering that if the engineer had voted, so he or she briefed to the
They've met
Public
with,
Works Committee, right?
they've met with the Infrastructure Committee
Infrastructure.
twice or 3 times now.
Yeah.
So, in sort of
And I just think
various
before we're
phases.
asked to vote, we ought to have them in here to
Absolutely.
talk to us. Well, it looked like we were asked to vote tonight.
Oh, okay.
I'm ill-prepared. I really know nothing about this.
Well,
You
I'm not the
mentioned
only
it.
one who, struck with this cold, would be given pause by $49 million. I think the tour of the plant is compelling. Not everybody can do that, and I wonder if it wouldn't be worth, given there's a lot of education to be done to get people
Dan
on
doesn't
board
see
with
it
this
as well.
stratosphere of bond vote. And I think a little video tour, and maybe the piece in the newspaper, the Middlebury page, to do things that, who knows, maybe John Flowers will do a piece on it on its own, but I'm just thinking that we ought to think about some kind of campaign that supports this. The degree of deterioration that's happened because of the sewer gas, the age of things, the clumsiness of the belt press contraption. It looks like it's, drops, a lot of stuff there. At the hand shovel on it. It's, I think, Dan Brown came on it, and I think he might also weigh in on what he thinks would be a good way to convey the information we got and how we could, we have to do it. That's the, so the other thing I think about is that people are gonna ask, just like they ask for a bond vote for the library, how can we possibly pay for this? And there's some grants on the next slide after that, that one that was put up. Pollution control grants for 10 to 35% and a small engineering subsidy. But things like the Northern Borders Regional Commission and congressionally directed spending are maybe more speculative in the environment going ahead, particularly what the governor said today. And I think we need to understand what is the capacity of our sewer rate. Are we at par? Some kind of benchmarking. What could we raise with a bond vote, a 20-year bond vote, reasonably? And what kind of gap is there that needs to be raised? I think that'd be compelling if we were going to ask for grants to show we're reaching. We could reach as much as we could and be at par, but people are, this is a huge number, and people are going to want to see some financial plan. And I think.
Dan's had his hand up for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I agree with Brian. I agree with Fred, and I fortunately had a chance to go to the infrastructure committee meeting and listen to this brief and go through the walkthrough. It's very compelling. But over the last 3 years, we've had so many briefs on a $17 million library. We could probably all draw the plans on it, but we really don't have a handle on a project that's 3 times as large. Although we know we're going to improve it, we've got to improve it. But I would recommend that we as the select board sit through this briefing. It's kind of crazy. This is a $49 million project with no brick and mortar. We're not building any brick and mortar. We're just changing stuff out. So it's kind of stunning, the cost, and I understand, but I would love to have all the select board members either get a tour, because it's really an interesting tour, or and get this brief presented to us. Although I'm in favor for it, I'm going to vote for it. I just would like to see us to be more knowledgeable what it is where $49 million worth of equipment is going to be spent. And then obviously after this, you really have a big sell to do to the town folks, because they don't understand it, and they don't, man, I don't think hardly anybody understands how we're going to pay for this. They think it's property taxes. So
Right.
that's going to be a big push after. So thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem backing up the infrastructure committee when they review a $25,000 item. I thought I'd insinuated previously that if we're gonna be looking at this, we need to get the select board educated. If I'd known there was gonna be a brief at the infrastructure committee and we were gonna ask for a question, we should have asked to have it special select board meeting, have all the select board members there, so that the engineer isn't having to brief it twice. But I feel ill-prepared, and I can't in good faith say that I'm supportive of something I know nothing about. I know we need to do it. I mean, we've talked about it for quite a while, and there's been some different papers about options and stuff over the past several years. But the fact that we've selected an option and are ready to vote for that option, I think it's, if we aren't all educated on it, maybe I'm the only one I've been busy, we'll tell you that, but if we're not educated, there's no way I'm calling a vote on that tonight, because.
Can we schedule a presentation from the engineers?
Yeah.
That would be great if we can do that.
And David, we shouldn't be putting a vote on our minutes if we haven't brought it before the board for an educational meeting first. So let's go on to the next, because we're not there on that.
Next on, is Dana on?
Yes,
Yeah.
she is. Dana, I'm going to promote you here.
You can just hang right there and make Dana's on.
everyone.
Hi,
You can hear
Dana.
me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm here to talk about the library relocation tonight and hiring a mover to help us with that effort. It's coming right up. We're moving in February. I expect the building will close to the public on February 1st, and it'll take us about 3 weeks to complete the move from start to finish.
Wow.
Moving libraries is tricky. We have about 50,000 physical items that we need to transport to 2 separate locations, right? We're moving some of the collection to the National Bank of Middlebury building, but most of the collection will be going to the storage site in Virgins. Both of those are tricky facilities to move into for various different reasons. And you have to keep the books in the exact right order, because if you lose a book, it's pretty much lost. It's very difficult to re-find something when you have that many items. So we did a walkthrough with potential bidders. We had 3 attend. 2 of those ended up making a bid. I was impressed with all 3 of the movers that came to the walkthrough. I think we could work well with any of them. I'm recommending tonight that we go with the low bid, which was from Meyer Inc., at just about $90,000. It is expensive. It is also not a move that I think we can do ourselves. The move from the temporary location back into the new library will be much easier, much more straightforward, and it'll take place during the summer. So I do think the library staff with a team of volunteers can move the collection back in, and then we can just have regular movers help us with the very minimal furniture we need to move back in. But for this one, on the move out of the current building to the temporary location, it's going to be really tricky. So I would like to ask the select board to move forward with Meyer. The good news is that since I posted the request for proposals and did the walkthrough, we've had some good fortune, and Mike Roy at Middlebury College, he's the dean of the libraries there, and Middlebury College is offering to donate some of their library shelving, which is wonderful. It's much newer than our shelving. It's in better condition. It would be easier for the movers to move, and it would theoretically bring the cost down for us. I don't know how much, but if we move forward with Meyer, I'd like to start talking with them about kind of renegotiating and reconsidering what this move looks like and how we might save some money, hopefully, by taking advantage of this new shelving opportunity. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, any questions? So these are professional library movers, or people that, so that as far as preserving, I mean, my only question would be, is there ability to preserve the whole collection, and when they're moving it, packing it correctly so that it doesn't mold and mildew, and do they have any kind of insurance requirement as part of this?
Sorry?
Do they have any kind of an insurance requirement, as, you know, liability type insurance if they damage the collection?
They have liability insurance. I don't know that it's specific. I don't think it's specific for libraries. I can look back into that. The real advantage that library movers have is that they have these huge carts that they move the books onto before they break the shelving down. So that's the tricky thing. It's like, how do you move the shelves?
Yeah.
You have to move the books off first, but then where do you put the books? So they are prepared to do that.
Okay, so much less chance of damage to the collection.
Less chance of damage to the collection, and almost more importantly, less chance of the books getting in the wrong order and getting lost. Because that's really easy. That's surprisingly easy to happen.
52 pickup, that's a whole new deal, huh? Yeah.
That would be 50,000 pickup.
Yeah. Okay.
Is the college loaning the shelving, or are they donating the shelving to us?
It would be a donation.
Good.
Very generous, yeah.
That's great.
So the shelving that they're donating is currently compact shelving. I would have to have the movers, Meyer, come and look at it and confirm that it can be repurposed as standalone shelving.
Okay.
I don't think there'll be any problem with that. That's something that happens regularly, but I'm not a library shelving expert, so they would have to confirm that for us, but I'm pretty optimistic it should be fine.
So Dana, just for my edification, how many items are going to be available immediately at the NBM building of our 50,000 collection?
I think about 10,000.
Okay.
Between a fifth and a quarter of our collection should fit there.
Cool.
And then the rest will go into the offsite storage. And we will have a librarian go and page books from that offsite storage facility every day. So the whole collection will be accessible. You just will have to wait a day or two to get your books.
Yep. Cool.
Questions?
I'll move to approve the proposed agreement with Meyer Inc. for an amount not to exceed $89,690 for the collection relocation services out by the Ilkley Public Library.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thanks, Dana.
All right, thanks very much, everyone. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Dana.
it.
Middle Road.
Middle Road North, we had a good turnout of contractors for this contract. I think we had 8 or 9 total contractors. The top 2 bids were $5,000 apart from each other, so tight
Very
bidding.
close.
Yeah, it was impressive.
Without collusion?
Without collusion that I'm aware of. The apparent low bid is Munson. This, just to refresh you, this project was allocated funding through the ARPA funds, $455,779 from ARPA. There's also the opportunity for some FEMA reimbursement for a stormwater component that's involved in it. But until we finish negotiating with FEMA, we don't really know what that final number will be. So there, a large component of the project will be paid for through the ARPA funding. It essentially builds a turning lane to head south off of Middle Road North. It replaces 2 culverts at La Crosse Drive, repairs a culvert at the middle school, just south of the middle school entrance, and then also lines that culvert. And then it also builds a raised concrete sidewalk from the middle school entrance to where the playfields parking lot is, and then adds some parking spaces in that stretch, which will help with some of our concerns. Yeah. So I think it'll be a good project. Obviously there was a lot of interest in it, just judging from the number of bids.
Does this take care of a lot of the issues that residents were complaining about? Or some of them?
I'm sure we'll still find more issues.
Oh, I'm
but
sure.
It'll increase parking, and it will get a raised sidewalk, an improved sidewalk. It will be concrete, so.
And they're putting in the curbing. I see that the middle school is actually paying for the curbing portion of it, or no?
No, the curbing, no, it's all on the main line, the curb. We're just doing a 4-inch reveal.
Okay.
Getting towards the residence, there's the split of the road there, and the one that goes straight up.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother-in-law lives in one of the condos up there, and says that frequently when there's a lot of sports teams playing, there's enough parking there that turn is obscured by vehicles that are right in there and in that corner. And I was wondering if some kind of bollard or something,
Or some rocks. Or
right, some kind of
something
parking
that people
prevention
can see over
on
the-
that
Deter
corner.
them.
Prevent-
We can certainly look into that. I know we've also had a request for a flashing beacon for a crosswalk coming off the back parking lot of Hannaford's
Yeah.
there. So I think there's
Okay.
room to make those improvements as we go.
We have a hand from Laura.
Yeah. So.
one of these entrances?
Yeah, I think it's this guy up here.
Yeah, I think that down here was where a lot of the people were complaining about
Oh,
a
no.
year or so ago.
No, it's further down. It's
Yeah.
this guy right here.
Yeah, down
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
We have a
That's
question
where-
from Laura. Yeah. Laura, I'm gonna let you speak here. You have to unmute yourself, though.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes. Emily just said it, just adding a rapid flashing beacon light at that crosswalk would be really helpful. It's very dark there, and I've also visited people from the residents and find that it's really hard to see people crossing, dog walkers, kids, in dusk and dark. So thank you for thinking about that and the other measures that you just covered. Nothing else. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Laura.
Any other questions? If there's no other questions, pleasure of the board.
I would move approval of the proposed contract with Munson Earth Moving Corporation for $879,644.50 for the infrastructure improvements to Middle Road North, as recommended by the Infrastructure Committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Seminary Street Extension sewer lining. You may recall this was connected to the Stonecrop housing development proposal. In order to allow that development to occur, we need to line the sewer and manholes that go through the stretch just to the west of that site. That pump station on Seminary Street Extension sees really high flows during rain events. And so there would not be sufficient capacity with that development during rain events if we didn't line that section. So we put it out to bid. We only received 2 bids. The apparent low bid was not a registered plan holder. And they also did not acknowledge receipt of the second addendum. And the other bidder subsequently sent an email saying that the second addendum greatly increased their bid dollar. It was all related to working in the wetland. So they were both proposing to use timber mats through a large stretch of the project to be able to provide access. And so it did not seem fair that the low bid did not acknowledge the addendum that applied to that. So the Infrastructure Committee has recommended the bid from In Situ Form. With that, I think we can potentially get their bid to be reduced by either actually pulling a wetland permit for a section of it or working with them, changing how we do mat it so that they're not matting as long of a stretch. I think the matting was a major driver in their general conditions cost. So if we can whittle that down, it would make the project more affordable.
Did they provide a number prior to addendum 2? Was there a?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, we just had the engineer's estimate, and
Yeah.
the engineer's estimate is right in line with what the actual project costs
Great.
are, but the general conditions is where the work in the wetland gets housed, and so
Gotcha.
that quantity got inflated. This project, we do have $200,000 from ARPA funding that we have allocated to this project, and there's also $75,000 from the Stonehouse Housing Development Agreement allocated to this.
How much is left in our ARPA? Does this clean up the ARPA funding?
So there's still a little bit, we had allocated 30,000. I was trying to get an intern to doing some GIS work and to buy a new plotter. And so that is still available, and Kathleen and I had increased the South Street funding potentially slightly. But that essentially, I think the only other component of it is the broadband piece that I don't know where that
Yeah.
final dollar came in.
And by 12/31, do we have to actually
Has to be under contract.
do an official contract with the broadband? Because we had kind of voted and committed some of that funds to them, so. So Dave, do we need to make sure we're legal on that?
Yeah,
So we need to make sure we use that ARPA
I
fund.
think that's the final piece, those two,
I thought so too.
yeah.
I thought South Street had cleaned up all but the broadband, but when I
South
saw
Street
these-
utilized the part that was allocated for water.
Okay. All right.
And then Halliday Road Pump Station utilized the wastewater component. And then
And this
this,
is,
between this and the Halliday Road culvert that we just replaced, that utilized the highway section.
okay.
We didn't settle on an amount for the broadband though.
We had reserved amount. We need
Yeah.
to, we need to,
We didn't commit anything
we
to
need
them,
to
right?
have a discussion on it and finalize it, and whatever that number is, and if it's less, then we need to use it in a project.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
You
okay.
s- You said that there might be an opportunity to reduce this amount, so the motion should be a not to exceed motion.
I would do a not to exceed. I think we can reduce it slightly.
Okay.
Any other questions? Pleasure of the board.
I'll move to approve the proposed contract with In Situ Forum Technologies LLC for the sewer lining along Seminary Street Extension for a not to exceed amount of $422,400.
Second.
Moved and seconded. One last opportunity for questions. None? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Boom.
Okay, unanimous again.
Okay, Chipman Hill Water Tank Construction Engineering, Dufresne Group has provided us with a engineering agreement for the next phase of construction, which is potentially going out to bid this week, next week, for construction of the water tank. The way we are going to phase it, we'll hire a construction engineer for on-site inspection separately from this contract. A lot of our engineers are running into issues with not having capacity to supply on-site inspection. So I've been working with them. They would like that same approach for this one. So they'd be any change orders, shop drawings, anything like that. They would be dealing with that and still doing all of the as-built and, you know, like all of that next phase engineering piece of it. So they have provided an engineering contract for $133,000.
When do you think we'll actually be starting to
Constructing.
do some construction?
So there's really only two companies that are bidding on these projects. One of them, well, they're both pretty much maxed out through end of summer. So it would, depending on which company we end up getting, it would either go early spring 2026, or we'd potentially be able to do it as their fall project. It's like a 3-month project, so.
3 months?
Yeah.
That was my
it's-
next follow-on
yeah,
was.
It's not, it's, once it gets going, it's not terribly, a terribly long time, but.
Early spring or this coming fall?
What's that?
Early spring or next fall?
Either spring of or fall of 25 or
Okay.
spring of 26. Like either, a year from now would
Okay,
be the
alright.
earliest.
Thank you.
They are starting the utility relocation right now, underground relocation. So that will all be completed in time. So once the contractor is available for this, there won't be anything to hold it up.
And did they do site work already up there?
They have not done site work. That'll be part of this. So the the prime contractor is the tank company, and they also do the final, it's like 5 to 10% of the design, and they hire a subcontractor to do the site work.
Okay.
Dan has a question.
Yeah, Emily, this project keeps getting delayed and delayed. How much more is it costing us compared to what we bonded for?
We,
And I know we're gonna pay for it in other ways with bonds, but
so we bonded for 3.5. I think the current estimate
Okay.
is 3.78, but we had to
Okay.
delay it to get the notice to proceed from Northern Borders. We couldn't start it any sooner. Or
Okay.
if we had started it, we would have lost that $1 million funding.
okay.
I think
Thank you.
the other note, Dan, is with this contract, the way that it is written and also in the packet is the state revolving fund construction agreement. We were just under the fundable line for this current fiscal year. So if any of the projects above us drop out, they get bypassed, and then we would get the funding potentially. But it also gives us an opportunity to submit again to the priority list. Our asset management plan has now been submitted to the state for approval, so that will gain us points in that scoring. So we'll most likely get SRF funding, so then we wouldn't be bonding at all, we would be using SRF funding.
So delaying is to our advantage at this time.
Correct.
That was kind of what
Thank
we,
you.
that was the game plan anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, yep, yep.
okay. Any other questions? Pleasure of the board.
I'll move to approve the proposed engineering contract with the Dufresne Group for $133,000 for construction engineering service for the planned Chipman Hill water tank project.
Second.
Don't all rush.
That was pretty in sync.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. 2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Good.
Is Jill
Skate
on?
park.
Jill's behind you.
Jill's here.
Jill Quackenbush of the Middlebury Skate Park Project.
Hey, Jill.
Hi. Hopefully a quick one. We are just requesting permission to submit a pre-application for a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. It's due December 13th. The full application happens it's due March 13th. So we're just looking to submit the pre-application, which just, it's kind of like the baseline to make it to the next step. Does this, is it eligible for this grant? Is it feasible? All those things. So there's a pre-application. We have to do a work plan, a budget. And we are looking to fund the construction of the skate park. We are estimating the construction cost to be about $505,000. That is based on a range of industry standard of $55 to $80 per square foot, which has gone up since we started. We're basing our estimate on like $75 a square foot. And then of that number, which is $562,000, 10% of that will go to design, and then the remaining 90 would be construction. So we expect to spend about $57,000, hopefully on the upper end, for design. So that's where we get the $505,000 for construction. This grant is a reimbursement grant and requires a 50% match, but the match does not need to be in hand when we apply or when the grant agreement is signed. It only needs to be in hand when you request a reimbursement for your expenses. Yeah.
Did the town provide any in-kind services as match on this?
Yes, in kind does count towards the match.
Yeah. I was just wondering if we have any
Concrete suppliers?
right, yeah, or yeah.
Well,
We
the
do have a
Department of
concrete supplier in town.
Yeah.
Department of Public Works did. They donated the gravel pad that the mini ramp is sitting on.
Right.
For example.
For example.
But we also have a pledge from Carrera to give a discount on concrete. So,
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
This does mean that we have to pay for the entire project up front and then request reimbursement for up to 50%.
Okay.
So we had a discussion about this at the Public Works, the Infrastructure Committee meeting, and, applying for a grant doesn't necessarily commit us. That I think, like the library, like certainly the wastewater plant, there needs to be a financial plan for this that is persuasive, that, what part is the town committing to from its capital budget, what part are they raised, and I think voters need to see their way through this before we take the final step in application. But getting the grant would be a significant thing. If they didn't get the grant, that would also be a pretty significant thing to know. So that's kind of the way it came forward. I don't think there's enough in the capital budget to do it, and there's concerns. I don't know. Heather spoke to this, and I'm just trying to support her position about this, and she can speak further about it.
So what's the time frame that we would have to actually do the construction and request the
Right.
grant funds?
Yeah, the implementation period is between June 2026. There's a very long review period because it's federal funds.
Sure.
So we couldn't even begin until 2026, and then it ends in December 2028. So we have that window to hire a contractor and do the construction. And doing the pre-application in no way obligates us to do the full application, so we'll be working hopefully with Emily, maybe even the Parks and Rec Committee, on preparing all the materials for the full application and make sure that we're ready, and we have a plan. So this is just the pre-application to get over that first hurdle.
I think the other potential, I hadn't really thought about it, like you were saying, that we have to pay for the entire thing up front. We could build it into the construction contract that they have to provide monthly pay requests so that we can get reimbursed as we go instead of a...
Does a grant allow you to do that, or they just want to see one request at the end of the project?
They allow you to make one request per quarter, so it's up.
So that might be trickier then.
Right.
Yeah, the contractor's not gonna wait for payment for once per quarter, so.
Right, yeah, if it's like a.
Well, I can't imagine
total
the project
upfront.
would take more than a quarter either.
I think they would be done within
Yeah.
a quarter.
Probably. Yeah.
Once you've done the site prep, I can't imagine the rest of it.
It would be done in that summer, like a few months, hopefully.
When do we think that the design will be done?
It will be done by next summer. The full design with construction documents and a construction estimate will be done by August at least.
So one concern I have is that we usually have better luck with grants when we have a more
Nice
shovel-ready
documents.
project.
Sure.
And so but what also came up in infrastructure, that this particular grant opportunity is not an annual grant opportunity, so we don't know when it will come available again, or how much will be available, so, but I wish we had a little better shovel-ready project before requesting funds.
Me too. Yeah, we had started with the design build idea and trying to raise funds for that, and that was very challenging. So, yeah, we're on the path to get the design, but it just kind of the timelines just didn't quite line up.
I don't know that it's necessarily a bad thing to go ahead and, submit a grant application for pre-application and see what comes up. But I think before we submit the final, we just need to have some hard conversations about how we're gonna,
Fund our half.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll tell you, they've been
Are you
persistent.
looking-
Your team is very persistent.
Are you guys looking for the town to make up that half, or are you guys looking to fundraise for that
We're
half?
fundraising, and whatever if we get the allocation in the budget, that year would go, this year and next year would go a long way. But we definitely have fundraising plans. We've been speaking to the college, we've been speaking to the Lions and Rotary. We're kicking off a fundraising campaign this winter, hoping to raise $20,000. We raised $15,000 since the beginning of November. We got a grant from VCF of discretionary funds for $8,000, and Cornwall Select Board voted to give us $5,000 of their ARPA funds. So, yeah, we have fundraising plans.
I think we should do it.
Yeah.
Let's be optimistic.
Right.
Well, it'll get built. All we gotta do is, this is just a pre-grant thing, so it's simple.
Especially look at the spirit. She comes in here with all the colors.
Yeah, you can get these at the Middlebury shop if you want.
I noticed it. All right, pleasure of the board.
I move to authorize the Middlebury Skate Park project to submit to the state a pre-application for the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant program.
Second?
Been seconded. Questions or comments? All in favor signify by, no, yes?
We are a little confused about the procedure. We don't want to interrupt, but we were coming to offer support.
For the skate park.
Support?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Another one. Yeah, see, I'm telling you, you guys are organized. So we have a motion and a second, and
We do.
seems to be a lot of community support. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I had 2 emails in support of that, and I had 2 phone calls, and I had 1 walk into the store.
Great.
And they wanted.
Great.
Hold on.
Keep after the fundraising. I'm sure
We
we'll
will.
be happy to contribute a fair share, but it's a big ask to do it all. So
Yeah, we
if
understand.
you
Yeah.
can get the grant and get some other support, that makes it a lot easier and more doable.
Yeah.
And lovely to hear that the neighboring towns are supportive of this project. That's
Yeah.
really exciting.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we were excited about that. We are working on some of the other ones. So-
Fantastic.
And hopefully the
But-
college too.
Yeah,
And the college,
absolutely.
yes. We've been speaking with them.
Thanks so much
Yeah.
for coming to voice your support and for bringing us this exciting grant opportunity.
Great, thank you so much, Jill. Emily.
So we have budget presentation. I'll let,
Almost on time.
is it not? Oh, I see, a few minutes.
Yeah.
Emily, are you staying to talk about budget or?
I am.
You are, okay.
I'm available as needed.
All right.
Crystal at the helm.
Hi.
Hey.
So a couple basic things we have for you, and then Crystal's going to share a little bit about what we've been putting together so far about the major drivers. Like Kathleen provided in years past, the year-to-date information for the budget is included in here that Finance put together. The timelines are similar to what you've seen in the past, although we're going to speak to one of the items here, and Emily's going to come up a little later on, and we're going to walk through some of the major drivers in the capital. But if you want to talk about some of the broader
So I would
strokes.
say, first of all, I just want to, one of the many things that I miss about Kathleen is her, she's a whiz at the budget, right? And we really realized how much we didn't know, right? So, and how much we're learning. So to that, we're not as prepared to share with you numbers as she would have been at all, actually. So we can just point on, like, the health insurance, obviously, as always, is one of our major drivers, right? So I made the decision very recently to make a switch from Blue Cross Blue Shield to MVP because the difference was significant. Blue Cross increased, I think it was almost 26%, whereas MVP was only a 13% increase. So,
It's terrible though when you say only.
Mm-hmm.
only, yes. So I can tell you that
Cost of living's going up 2.5% this year, and our
Yeah.
health, and our
It doesn't
healthcare is
equate at
going
all.
up 13.
It's not a savings,
No.
it's just less of a...
No,
it's crazy.
exactly. It was less of a burden for the town and the employees.
How many years has it been double digit?
Well,
all
right
of
now it's now up to $1 million, is the town contribution. So, from, last year it was 924,000, and this year, it's going to be, where am I here? Yeah, thanks. 1,067,354,000 for that, and that is based on our numbers from 2024. I'm in the middle of open enrollment right now because we're doing this big transition, so people have to have their stuff into me by tomorrow at noon. So we'll have a better idea of what those actual numbers will be at the next meeting for you, December 10th.
And that's about 100,000 less than what it would have been with Blue Cross Blue
Correct,
Shield.
exactly.
We're stuck
So
with them.
yeah, so Blue Cross Blue Shield was going to be 1,162,789,004. So it was a 95,434 and 68-cent difference between Blue Cross and MVP this year. Like
Wow.
wild for town cost. So the other major driver, as we all know always, is payroll. We've had a lot of changes. Just even recently, right? So we had 3 of our department heads leave. So Bill, Kathleen, and Bob. When that happens, of course, in order to attract new candidates, you have to increase your salaries, right? To right size where we're at, and to make it competitive. So that makes a huge difference. And we also lost 6 long-term employees. So again, we had to hire new positions, and again, as you know, in the hiring world, you have to offer different wages to start people out. We did fill a mechanic position. That is not a new position, but it was a long vacant position from one of our employees who unfortunately passed away. And then we have a new officer graduating on Wednesday, tomorrow, from Academy, so that's exciting. So all of those things are contributing to those increases, as well as we have the new childcare tax to consider. So currently, the town has been paying the entire childcare tax contribution. We're in a negotiation year this coming year, so we'll be proposing to the union to absorb the employee absorb some of that cost because of all these other increases. We also have I have not started budgeting for it yet, but the Vermont FMLI, I'm sure everyone's familiar with that, or if you're not, it's coming July 1, and that is it's FMLI, so it's Family Medical Leave Insurance.
Oh, thank you.
And so employers can choose to participate in this program, and essentially it is similar to FMLA, but it's paid time off, right? And it can also be used for family support. So, you know, you can get paid, like short-term disability, you can be paid if you're on maternity leave or you have an injury. FMLI allows you to take care of a ailing parent and be paid. So if the town decides not to contribute to this, we could do a 50-50 split with the employees. We could do a variation of ways to make this happen. Employees can purchase this on their own as well. And so we would then be managing one-offs here and there, whoever has decided to purchase this insurance.
Wait.
So really challenging. So anyway, considering all these new things coming for benefits that we really need to be budgeting for differently than we ever have. So
One more question about the right sizing. We took a look at some trends from 2 or 3 years worth of expenditures compared to this year, and lines where there was a pattern of going over. You know, these things happen and they're unpredictable, but at a certain point you have to right size the line. If you budget X amount every year and you go over by 20%,
Sure.
you know, it's probably not a fluke. So working with some of the departments as we've been going through with finance, some of the lines you'll see when we get to the full budget more of an increase, and that's just a realization of what the expenditures have actually been over the last 3 years. So that's going to be, it's not one massive line, it's spread across departments, but that mentality of trying to recognize that the expenditures have to be closer to what they've been, or the budget have to be closer to expenditures. So
Smart.
that's just a smaller piece that you'll see spread around.
any thoughts or questions early on?
Do you have a number for expected increase in total payroll?
Great question. I do not currently, and really I'm very, very close. I could probably even have it tomorrow, but we have some new players coming in that that I'm plugging into the systems right now, so, yeah.
Very good.
Have you done an evaluation of what it would cost to offer a more robust paid leave plan versus doing the insurance?
We have,
Okay.
yes, yep. So Kathleen and I did the exercise when the state of Vermont started working with the broker for the FMLI, and so we wanted to just get ahead of it. And so we worked with Sally from Hickok or Acrisure now I think it's called, to try to look at that, and the cost for us to do a more robust was very significant. So it was not going to be a benefit.
The Vermont Community Foundation is doing its own, and I don't think we found that it's been a significant increase in cost.
I didn't.
The Vermont Community Foundation is doing its own paid leave,
Yeah,
you know,
because it
program.
was more affordable than the other.
And as far as I can tell, yes.
Instead of paying it out through like a broker.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, buying insurance, right?
Mhm.
You know, it's a self-insurance type
Yeah.
versus, so.
Yeah. A little familiar with that. I know Agrimark was doing that in the past. Also, they just this year are going to the broker model now, actually, too. So, yeah.
So when we look at the schedule,
Yep. So we'll be back here December 10th to give you a much more detailed
For the general fund.
analysis here.
December 10th, we get the full budget overview.
Yep.
So you'll be able to send it to us, your goal is to send it to us the week before.
Yep, Friday the 6th. You should have that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Next Friday.
Yep.
With a public hearing a month later. So it gives us a month to work that, to tweak the budget.
2 meetings before the budget hearing.
Yeah. That's normal, oh, that's what.
3, actually.
Well, the
2.
third one is the budget hearing.
I would just ask that for that December 10th meeting, we keep the budget top priority first on the agenda, and plenty of time to have a conversation and discussion about it, and anything else that needs to come up would be, in my opinion, secondary.
Yeah, especially with a novice group of going through it, we're gonna need to really make that the focus of that meeting.
When would you want the engineers to come and talk about the wastewater upgrades? Hearing that. Have you changed your Christmas Eve meeting, hopefully?
I couldn't hear you.
I think we're scheduled for the 10th and the 17th. Right.
Probably the 17th,
I think it has to be.
because we need to do a major budget, and then we come back in and review revisions based upon what we've some of the comments that we make. You've been through a budget process with us, so you know how that, yeah, and then, but that's a lot shorter, so that second one would be a better meeting, because that's, we don't want to shortchange that either. So trying to do that the same meeting we do the full budget with all the department heads will be, that'll be a big, we'll be brain dead by the end of that, so.
Oh, yeah.
Be better off to move that to the front of the 17th.
Well, the other option would be to do it in January, after the budget hearing. You know, when it's these January 16th and 27th.
But we have to have the declaration of bond before the.
That's, when do we have, that was my question earlier, is when do we have to,
Oh, I think it's 40 days, right?
You want the capital timeline?
Yeah.
Declaration of bond. I don't see that on here.
January 16th.
Is it January 23rd, it's 40 days before.
47 days before is the last day for petitions. Yeah.
I think it's January 16th.
Well, if you did it in January, it is late, but, well, if we're not ready,
I don't think we can wait till January. I don't think we can wait till January to decide on whether we're moving forward with that project or not.
I actually agree with that.
I think we can do it the 17th.
A lot of community education that has to happen, and,
Yeah.
you know,
That gives us 3 months.
I think we can do a lot of the community education January, February, before the actual town meeting vote. But we have to make a decision of whether we're gonna put it up
Yeah.
on this town meeting or not.
Yeah.
What else do you have coming down the line that's gonna,
We're keeping December very light at infrastructure.
are you?
Yes.
Okay, so we can focus on these two issues? How about for what you three have coming, anything that you know of?
Let's see here. Short of the BMP thing, that should be very quick, right? That's
Yeah.
just signing.
That's
We'll
a
do that next time.
10-minute,
simple.
I mean.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, the
Um,
encampment discussions are still going on, so I don't suspect that will be.
Yeah, well, that will be
Yeah.
post-town meeting probably that we've got.
I don't think there's anything else. I mean, our focus certainly is
Right.
just on the budget right now,
Yeah.
so.
So budget,
Yeah.
next meeting,
And then wastewater the following.
wastewater the following meeting.
Yep.
Sounds good.
And did we decide that we were gonna do the 10th and the 17th?
We
Meetings, because the second Tuesday is actually Christmas Eve.
Right.
Wait,
If we go to,
I didn't move them in my calendar, but I just need to do so if we're
I
gonna.
think we talked about it.
I thought we had talked about it, but I'm moving in my calendar. Does that work for everyone, the 10th and the 17th?
Just hold, give me 1 second here if you could. 10th, I'm already scheduled for here. 17th.
sure.
That was the Middlebury Town and Gown Christmas party. But this will be a priority, so. Yeah, because there's no way we're meeting the 24th.
Right.
I guess we have to. All right. Everybody can make that? Can you make that, Dan and Isabel? Okay,
Sure can.
all right. Change that to the 17th. All right, what else have we got?
Emily, did you want to go through the?
Capital improvement plan.
This part. Yep. We're both up, so you tell me which one you'd rather have.
Can you put up just the major drivers that I sent today?
Just go through this?
Yeah, I mean, unless, I haven't edited the other one is from,
This is the second version you sent.
that's just the spreadsheet, right? The one that I sent today?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just go through the major drivers because that's really, so the overall, capital improvement budget, I just broke it out by department. The administrative increase was relatively insignificant. The major thing is getting HVAC improvements in the server room. which apparently there's no ventilation in there at this point.
That's correct.
You can keep going.
That's down in the basement of this building.
Down in the basement. So Public Works increase, we're looking at a 6.99% increase over last year. Highway construction, we have a number of paving projects and 3 different roadways looking to reclaim. The 2011 bond repayment has decreased slightly. Stormwater projects is one of the biggest drivers. That was a 64% increase to enable us to fund the 3-acre projects that we're working on and also do improvements throughout town, including engineering for Seymour Street. I'm trying to get some creative ideas going for Seymour Street. Fire department, the major request there was for security door improvements at Fire Station 2. They're having a lot of issues with the alarms or the doors not opening when they are supposed to.
Is that a small budget? 11.62% increase on, and only 7,500 for a major driver must be a small budget.
So Chief Shaw built his budget out at a 3% inflation. Just sort of, that's how he funds it going forward. And so most items are only a 3% increase over.
Well, that's at 11.62% increase.
I think mainly because of the security
Small
doors
budget.
being the.
Yeah, small budget.
Yeah. The library, so this one, Kathleen had me build in the bond debt retirement. So that $250,000 is still in that spreadsheet. Last year, the approach was to have allocation from the LOT. And so there is some flexibility on that spreadsheet because that number is in there as if it's coming out of the capital fund. So the only real requests from the library were for hardware and internet sort of improvements and then security improvements in the building. Security seems to be a common theme.
So we're not proposing to pay for any of the library project with taxes?
I am not aware of the background on that. I think historically it came out of local options, but it has to go out as a bond vote each year for that.
I think we're reducing the amount of the bond with the 4,000 or the 4 million but there's still some to come from the taxes, right? There's still some we're bonding. So I think
4 million.
So I think I would be in favor of keeping that 250 in there.
Okay.
Because I think that's why it's there, is a placeholder for that bond payment.
Okay.
The budget has another category, debt retirement. If you look at the typical town meeting budgets, the bonds that have been approved don't appear generally in the capital budget. They get moved to that debt retirement section. So when they present their spreadsheet to us next meeting, they're going to start plugging some numbers in there. But this is to keep in mind that the library is a big portion of the town's capital improvements this year.
So you still, even if you have that money set aside in the capital budget, you could take it all and spend it on the project and reduce that 4 million by ever how much you have in the capital.
Last year's capital budget for the library has a total of $246,000 for what we would have had to do with the old library. The historic preservation, $20,000, professional fees, $70,000, the cooler, $14,000, and $142,000 for the boiler. Well, that's not carried this year, but we have a new library, but then this is going to be every year. So.
Right, so if we leave
the percentage increase is a hard thing to.
Potentially $500,000 that reduces what we have to raise from taxes from 4 million to 3.5 million.
Not really. It's not
no, the library is really short. I wouldn't reduce any money on anything. We're $1.5 million short. So, if we've committed $4 million in taxes, let's keep it at $4 million in taxes. we might even, Brian has been aware of this. We might need to find other ways to increase funding. So don't reduce this $4 million.
Right.
Right, so
leave it as
that's
is.
what I said. Don't take the 250,000 that we have in the capital budget out. Leave it there, because we're gonna need it
Yes.
regardless.
Right.
So we're all saying the same thing.
Police slight increase, 22% increase, mostly in the facility security and tactical equipment. And then just the regular information technology upgrades that are an annual expense. Parks and Rec, they were able to reallocate funding at a recent select board meeting. And so the major drivers, we put 10,000 in the Creek Road Rec Center improvements instead of making it specific to HVAC or like a specific component over there, just because that whole property or that whole rec center needs a lot of work. That way it's a little more flexible. Facility security and some funding already got reallocated to help improve that line item. And then the skate park, we increased to 25,000 from last year's $5,000 allocation.
10 last year.
10 last year? Okay, 10 last year. Special initiatives, security was the cameras, I believe, like for the parking lot and this property. So slight decrease there. We decreased traffic calming and speed monitoring. There's a pretty substantial amount of funding in that reserve fund at this point. And then energy efficiency had an increase last year for solar on the roof here, so we brought it back down to the 10,000 that we had been level funding prior to that.
So we allocated 50 last year?
For energy efficiency,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
What? That actually, that begs a question. Did we ever get those cameras up?
The ones in this facility?
The additional cameras up in the
Yeah.
parking area and stuff?
There's, what was the total number of cameras in the
We
building?
don't have any in the parking area, mostly around the building.
But the new ones outside provide greater coverage
Right.
to the back parking lot.
So
and
we
to
do
the
have
traffic
like a
circle.
broader,
Yeah, so the ones, we now have broader angles over the traffic circle and the sidewalks and the front, top level of the parking lot.
Yeah.
And then we
Clarity
added,
is so much different, you can actually see who it is.
okay. So,
we also added cameras on the second floor of this building because there's no coverage anywhere. You walk through that door, you go up the stairs, and there's no record of who's come into the building at that point.
yeah,
So,
we have that now.
yeah, it's in this side of the hallway. Yeah.
They're also on the same software, so we have one software system running all our cameras, the police station and here, instead of these disparate systems.
Okay.
Fantastic.
So the net of all of this is between what was appropriated last year, FY '25, this current is 1.955 million to 2.033 is actually a net increase of just 78,451. I say just.
Yeah.
Compared to some of the other numbers we've been talking about tonight, this is seems modest. And I'm just new to the infrastructure committee and understanding that this is kind of a budget to appropriate money into the capital improvements fund, but there are fund balances in this. So even though it looks like we're, for example, cutting tree planting, there's actually a $46,000 fund balance in that line item. So we don't necessarily need to cut the amount of trees that are planted. Or if you look at the police HVAC, if it happened that the heating system on that happened to die next year, there's some money in the fund balance for that would help pay for that. or possibly with the addition of some energy efficiency money from the thing. And that would bring it up to a level comparable to what we had to do for the rec center. So, you know, this isn't necessarily the spending plan. It's more of a funding plan to keep up the level of money that's needed for the things that come up when they come up. Is that fair to say?
Well, I would say that we typically have an intention for the money that we're budgeting. But we intentionally keep the fund balance for the it's kind of a rainy day fund. And there's a guide as to how much we should keep in a fund balance. And if it exceeds that, if we have lean years where we don't have it, we pull from that fund balance.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think what you're talking about, what Fred talking about are two different things right now.
You're talking about the general fund balance, having an amount in there is recommended percentage. And that's a subject for the next meeting, when we get that budget, I guess. But when you look at the spreadsheets, for example, thank you, Heather, for explaining this, that every one of those numbers in the reserve fund balance has a reason why it's accumulated that much. And I don't necessarily know all of those reasons. That there's some, and the recreation individual sheets, for example, have mention of the fund balance and some of the intentions for that. But if you look at like the fire department one, if you skip down to the next page there. So when Emily was saying about increasing all of those, you know, with inflation, 3% each year. So a newcomer like me looks at this and says, well, gee, thermal image cameras, they're buying some each year, maybe, but there's a $53,000 fund balance in that, and couldn't we, you know, sharpen our pencil for a year like we did with the tree planting or some of these other accounts that we've cut in order to fund increased needs for stormwater. And I think that's a further detail that we can get to when we decide how we're going to pay for this. Some years the town has allocated local option tax money that they had available, so it doesn't increase the taxes. Another way to do it might be able to adjust some of these numbers, like we adjusted some fund balance numbers and moved them around in the recreation department in our last meeting, I think. So this isn't necessarily, the budget that's shown in blue there isn't necessarily the spending plan. That's what I was trying to say.
Right. This is like the expected annualized amount, not what we expect to spend next year.
So, sorry, Andy, I've just got
Sure.
a comment. I've said this several times to Fred, and I will say it to the whole group. I would use extreme caution in looking at those fund balances because they are one point in time, and there may be projects that where those funds are spoken for but haven't been spent yet. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're available or that we should cut because we have some amount of money in a fund balance.
They're encumbered.
And, I'm sorry?
Encumbered.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So we
So
know we can do that for
please,
tree
please,
planting.
Fred,
Yeah.
please let me have a chance to speak. So the example on the HVAC system at the police department. That system has been at the end of its useful life for
9 years.
Thank you. And in the course of those 9 years, we have been squirreling money away so that when it is at the point where it quits, we have the money to pay for it. And I have explained this multiple times, we are not seeing these huge spikes from year to year in the capital budget. It is more level funded, and we have money available to do things when we want to do them. And we have heard from taxpayers multiple times over the last 4 or 5 years that they want us to pay for things with cash versus bonding. And this is also part of the attempt to do that. So I just, you know.
That's exactly what I said about the police HVAC.
Yeah.
And
So it doesn't mean that we should, I would just strongly caution us into considering that we have room to cut things until a point where we say we've done, so when we replace the system on the top of the police station for that HVAC, when we've done that project, and it comes in at half of what we put money away for, and there's 50% of that money available, then we are at a point where maybe we cut that part out of the budget, you know? So it just makes me really nervous when we put these fund balances on this report. And I think it gives people the impression that we have all this money, but it's not
Indeed.
how it works. Yes, there's money available, but hopefully when we need to replace things, we have the money to do it, and we are asking the voters to pay more in taxes to make those things happen.
Thank you.
And I've spent 9 years working on that, so.
Well, we've been buying our vehicles, I made that point to do that. We've been buying our vehicles cash and saving the taxpayers' money in the long run.
And that's about the equipment fund, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been our process, and typically, the money it's not locked, but it's tagged. We put it in there for a purpose.
And what we did this year, I think with Emily's help, is try to reorganize that tagging so it wasn't so specific.
Generalize it a little bit, so
Yes.
the flexibility exists within the
Yes.
departments to
And
use
I
it on
think we
related
approved
things.
some requests that Scott had last meeting
Yep.
for moving some of that money around, right?
Which
So
made
rather,
sense.
rather than putting, money for a water slide, we just put money in general pool maintenance. So
Yeah.
when we want to do a project with a pool, we know how much money we have available to do that project. So when I started, maintenance was so deferred that it was just, this roller coaster ride in the budget. And one year we got a raised capital budget, $250,000, and how do you ask voters to do that? Whereas if you try to balance that out over multiple years, you avoid that swing so much.
So, I think, to me, the things that really jump out as major drivers in this is that, and I think it's gonna be an increase needed to carry forward in other years, is the stormwater piece.
Yeah.
And, it's buried in all the different budgets, but if you add up all the security ones that are in each department now, there's about $60,000 worth of security-related stuff altogether in the town. This is just a trend, big trend, when you add it all up.
You're including doors as well as cameras in there?
All the things that are
Yeah.
line items that have security.
Yeah, and some of that is increasing our capacity, and then we'll have reduced replacement rates as they age and get replaced, but,
So,
yeah.
when Dan was, in the last year or so that Dan was here, he had put together a schedule for sidewalk. I don't know that he did much with stormwater, but sidewalk, roads, water, wastewater, how much we needed to be increasing in our capital budgets annually to try to get ahead of deferred maintenance and it was astronomical numbers. I don't know if you guys remember.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, even, we aren't anywhere near what we need to deal with the deferred maintenance that we have.
For sure.
And you know what? To that point, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get on my soapbox. 25 years ago, if we'd been having this conversation, when we built the sewer plant upgrades at that time, we knew 25 years ago that we weren't gonna need to do another upgrade in 25 years. And the sewer rate should have been adjusted to put that money away, or at least some of it.
Sure.
So that in 25 years, you had the money, at least some of the money to do those upgrades.
So when you're thinking about the 49 million for the wastewater plant, what you're saying is we ought to be also budgeting
Yes,
an increased sewer rate for another future replacement of that.
that's exactly what
Not
I'm
to
saying.
scare you, Brian, but
Well, but Fred, if you pay over the next 30 years for the lifespan of the plant, are you also paying to buy the plant in 30 years?
So we have always,
Too late.
we've always prided ourselves in, keeping our water and our sewer rates and everything low, right? And now we're at a point where we're facing a $50 million sewer grate, you know.
Not
if
everybody
you-
thinks they're low, maybe they're low out on Charlottesville Road, but they're, you know,
There were, of the 6 of my 9 years on this board, it was proposed that we not raise water and sewer rates. That we keep them the same. Well, all of our costs were going up and our plant was getting older. So,
Well,
you.
it was when Susan did the total review that we started looking at it with the
Yep.
future needs.
Well, we
I
started.
don't know when that was, because Susan's been off more than 3 years, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So it was back
It
then.
was,
That's
it
when-
was, it was like 6 years ago.
So that's when we started raising them.
Yep.
Uh,
Well, and we also were looking at, you know,
That's when we started knowing it was time to.
Well, we're just talking about $50 million in the sewer plant.
Right.
I know.
That does not include any money needed to upgrade pump stations and force mains and like,
We have the Rogers Road,
this is a drop in the bucket.
so we have SRF funding approved for Rogers Road Pump Station up to $2 million, which we would need a bond vote for this cycle also. Or else we have to.
This cycle, what do you mean by March?
Yeah, in the,
Say again, how much?
so I got it approved up to $2 million. So we would be able to get a low interest loan for the Rogers Road. So I think one consideration would be to put a bond vote out for wastewater improvements and lump them together. I think it would be easier on the consumer to see a $52,000 bond vote as opposed
Yeah.
to a 50 and a 2 million. But just another, all of our pump stations were built in 1977
How
essentially.
many pump stations do we have?
20.
Okay, and we've upgraded 2 or 3 in the last 3 years?
Money.
Yeah, we're 5.
So 2 million times 15, let's say. There's another 30.
So,
And you're not gonna all do them next year.
And that's
So
not
you're
the-
gonna have the increased cost.
and then there's the water.
And that's
You know,
not the lines
So
connecting
I'm just saying,
them.
this isn't
There's the $20 million.
capital improvements plan. Needs more.
There, what I'm trying to say to you, Fred,
I'm-
there's no money there.
Right.
It's all spent,
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
And the water and the wastewater are separate capital budgets too. They're not even included in this capital budget. I have officially rendered Fred speechless.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, okay, other points?
That's it.
That's,
I can't top that, I'm sorry.
well, thank you for getting our heads framed for a big discussion on the 10th.
17
7th.
for wastewater.
Oh, no,
I
10th, you'll be
emailed-
here for budget also, so.
Oh, yeah, you will.
All the,
I emailed the engineer, so I'll get a response for
Great.
if that date
Yeah.
works for the 17th.
all right,
Thanks, Emily.
Yep, thank you.
so I think check warrants.
Oh, that's me. I reviewed the check warrants. Oh, I don't have my computer on to look at the motion, sorry. I move to approve total expenditures in the amount of $8,772,421.76, consisting, oh, sorry. Yes, I did give the right number. Consisting of $8,636,248.26 for accounts payable and $173,173.50. I don't know if I just screwed that up, sorry. Beth, can you fix that for me in the minutes? For payroll for the period of November 13th, 2024 through November 26th, 2024.
Second. Does that include payment to the schools?
Yes, I was just gonna say, I had it
There we
written
go.
down. The school payment is included in the total expenditures, and that payment is $8,261,770.54.
That makes it sound
I was
less
looking at this general
ridiculous.
ledger report and seeing that, you know, property taxes collected were 17 million and our budget was 8 million. I was thought we ought to congratulate Nick for something.
Squirreling away $9 million, yeah.
But then I saw, you know, agenda notes.
Yeah.
It's going to the schools, so.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Board member concerns. Fred?
I'm recovering still. I complimented Emily already. So the policy review committee is working on the homeless, houseless encampment policy. I feel very sorry for them having only one meeting a month and an hour. There's a lot of interest in this, and Heidi Lacy had done a draft policy, and it referred to town parcels, and knowing something about town parcels and properties from my earlier job, my career, I volunteered, I decided to draft a better, more accurate description of things like that. So working with David and Tom Hanley and Heidi, I contributed to that. I want board members to know that I have weighed in on this, and the contacts that I've had about that. That said, it's today's meeting anyway was listening to a lot of concerns and understanding the pieces of that, and not much progress was able to be made at that rate. And I think, you know, there is still community interest, a lot of community interest about what's happening with this. So I'm just observing those things and trying to let people know that I'm interested in supporting that and working with them.
Yeah.
Hey, Andy, as chair of that committee, have you just been thrown under the bus?
A little bit, and I deserve it. We will do a better job of controlling the time and having more committee discussion and less input from visitors in the future going forward.
I don't mean to throw
With
them
the
under the bus. It's a
potential
very challenging thing.
to lengthen
Or a month.
or add in additional meetings so that we have something brought back to this board by spring. Yeah.
Okay. Is that it?
Thank you.
Welcome. Heather?
So, one other thing I want to remind everyone about is the project that we have on the books that we have money in a fund balance for that hasn't happened, and I don't know what the status is. And that's the sidewalk on Exchange Street.
Mm-hmm.
And that project probably, if it does get to construction, will cost 2 or 3 times what the original estimate and grants for. So as I think when we're excited about the skate park project, we're excited about some of these other projects, I think we lose sight and forget about some of the other grants and things that are still in the works for things that we haven't.
Creek Road, by the river. It's another one.
Well, we have a plan for that one when it washes away. Anyway.
But keeping money for it and the increased cost is what your point is.
It is very fun and exciting and a lot of support, and everybody wants to talk about a skate park project, right? Because it's exciting and it's fun and everybody wants to be there.
It's a new amenity for the town.
Yeah. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that what happens when their toilet doesn't flush.
Sure.
And I do want to make sure that we talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
And I am concerned that we didn't move that forward tonight, because as a board, we've known this has been coming, and if we didn't feel prepared, anyway.
I think that frankly, that is a fault of really our Emily, David, Chief, your committee. That should have been in front of us And I told them, whenever she came in and mentioned, I was like, you haven't even brought it to us yet. And yet it still never came to us. So that's a fault of not seeing the importance of the select board in allocating and promoting a $50 million project. That does not come out, it comes originally out of the committee, but that needs time at the select board level. And for that to not come here with a serious proposal and presentation is an abortion of bringing a project to us.
So we need to get the project in front of the voters, and we're not gonna have all the details.
I can't help you. It didn't come here yet. Get it here.
So if we don't get that in front of voters, we can't go after grant money.
I get it. I
So-
get it.
Okay.
On a lighter note. I don't know who to thank for. The sound's amazing, and the speakers and the owl and everything, and thank you for doing that. Everything was crystal clear today.
Yeah.
And,
I think that's Drew.
Is that you?
I think it's Drew.
We can blame him. On the skate park project, there is so much discussion going on the social media also. And a lot of people that has little kids that come to my store, and everybody is excited. And I know it's not a town project, but I think we should support them from what we can, I guess.
Dan?
I'm speechless tonight. You guys have said a lot at the end, so I've got nothing.
Okay. Isabel?
I'm with Dan, but happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thanks, Suzie.
Thank
Happy
you.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Where are you spending it?
I'm in New Jersey with my mom and my brother.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Good.
Yeah.
Andy?
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, and get your snow tires put on.
Put mine on
It's coming.
today.
Very good. I almost slipped on the ice by our back porch this morning.
Good ice?
Yeah.
I got some.
Yeah, we had it looked like snow, but it's flurries, but
Yeah.
early morning.
Huh. I didn't notice the ice this morning. Okay.
Where my driveway was frozen, it was icy.
We have a brief executive session. If somebody could carry us into that.
Heather?
Heather?
I'll move to enter into executive session with the inclusion of the interim town manager and assistant town manager related to,
And Crystal,
and the other assistant town manager,
associate.
related to the employment of a public officer or employee as allowed under Title I, Section 313A3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Recommended hire of the new Public Works Director.
Second. Director of Public Works.
Director of Public Works.
Isn't it Director of Public Works Operations? Is that the correct title?
Thank you.
Director of Operations.
That's what the motion was.
Yeah, there we go. For the second? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.